Hey guys, just sitting here at the workbench and figured I would take you along for the ride. So just going to start out by pinning some chassis. These are custom builds, so I always start with the pinning of the of the rear axle first, and I don't really do anything else until I get that done, just in case I pin the chassis crooked or something happens that I don't like. I don't want to build the whole car, get to the very end and have that problem, because it's happened to me before numerous times. So I'm going to go ahead, throw on my optivisors. So I've had a lot of guys ask me, what are these and where do I get them from? These are Donegan optivisors, and I don't know what lens I have in mind, but I've had a lot of other ones. There are cheap ones out there. I definitely don't recommend to buy the cheap ones. I would get the real deal optivisors. I bought a LED setup for mine, but I haven't really had that good of luck with the LEDs, because you can see I turned it on and there's a short in there. They don't really provide the light that I need. So I'm gonna make a mega one of these days with like a headlamp and all kinds of stuff, because as I get older I can't see as well. So any of you that are wondering what it is or where it's from, you can get them from Optivisor. I bought this one long time ago, before Amazon was the place to buy it at. I'm pretty sure you can get them off Amazon now, but I wish we had a line on them so that I could bring them in and sell them direct, or sell them on our website, because they are a great tool. I mean, I use them even times where I don't need them. I will use them. I don't want to strain my eyes, like I hate not being able to see stuff and guessing on something, especially if you're doing like small super fine work, or if you're drilling something or anything like that. I mean, there's no sense in putting the drill bit into your finger. Not a big fan of that. So we got one in so far. Hopefully you guys are all having a good day today. Sorry about that, forgot to put it on do not disturb, but we did shoot a YouTube video earlier, which is should be a pretty good video. We took one of our thrift store finds, and it was a lifelike T chassis, and we took that chassis, ran it right out of the box, made some changes to it, or just kind of simple things that anybody can do at home, and made a huge difference on it. So that video should be posted later on today on Facebook and on YouTube. So if you guys haven't been over to our YouTube channel, I definitely recommend checking out our YouTube channel. We have been making a conscious effort to post a lot more content on there. So Sam and I have been working on that. Try to grow the channel. If you guys could check it out and maybe give us some feedback on that, that'd be amazing. But I just started running, I don't know if you can see it, but this car has brass axle pins in it. So we just restocked these. They are a little bit bigger diameter than the chrome pins that we were selling before. We still have the chrome pins, but these are a little bit bigger diameter, which allows you to use a little bit larger drill bit, which to me, I find that helpful because you're not breaking as many bits. And it's not too much bigger to where you're compromising too much of strength in the back, but you definitely want to make sure that you have everything centered up before you put those axle pins in. But yeah, that's pretty much where I start all of the custom builds, is I do rear axle pins. Some stuff, that doesn't get the pins, like I was building this car earlier, has custom wheels on it, and it's not pinned. It's not really something that I guess it could get pinned, but it's going to be a drag car. You don't really need the axle pin setup on those, unless your rear axle holes in your chassis are super loose and the rear axle wants to pop out of the car. That would be definitely an occasion where you want to run pinned rear axle, but typically it's a road course thing, and it prevents the rear axle from popping out of the car in the event of a hard crash. So I've seen some crazy stuff with rear axles that weren't pinned. So it's actually not the axle, it's the chassis that gets pinned, and it's a retaining pin to keep the rear axle from being able to pop out. But so I always drill, then install, switch to the other side, drill, install, and go from there. Once I drill too, once it breaks through the walls, it does leave a little bit of a burr, so I'm just using an X-Acto knife to pop the burrs off of there. The reason that you want to do that is if you don't remove those burrs and you go to install your axle, you can actually sandwich that burr between your axle and the axle cavity on the chassis, and it'll still run and everything, but if it's a couple thousandths thick, it'll raise that side of the car up a couple thousandths, which can be quite a bit, especially on a magnet car. So that's why I always make sure any foreign debris or shavings, all that stuff, I make sure that it's removed off of there. So that's part of what I consider blueprinting, and it just makes for a very clean build. And all those little things that you can do, they do make a difference. So once I push the pins in, I will go back and check again to make sure that everything's good. If you have any that are questionable, I always have an axle on hand to slide in there, just in case you have one that maybe you think is getting close to the rear axle. You can throw an axle in it and check it out. So after I do the axle pins, I pop a guide pin in it. That's just kind of my process. The next thing I'll do is put the electrical in it, which we're going to be using silver plated stuff today. These are custom high-end builds, and after the after the electrical, I usually will put the front end setup on, and then my focus will move to usually to the end bell. So I'll go in and work the end bell and take it from there. But I don't think, let's see, Wes says I've been watching RO videos. Yeah, man, thanks for watching those. Shout out to Wes Young, Bomb Ass Beef Jerky. Got it today. Pretty good stuff. So definitely a little plug for you there. We appreciate that, and hopefully you get your car tomorrow. But yeah, we're just trying to do more content for you guys. I mean, a lot of stuff that is mainstream, a lot of mainstream products and whatnot. Try to do more content. We try to produce the most content of all the slot car manufacturers. Obviously I do that for multiple reasons, but really the main reason that I do that is when I was just getting into this hobby, even to this day, like as an enthusiast, I want to see more stuff. I wish that AFX would do, I wish they would show us how they make stuff and more insights in even just, someone sitting at their desk building some cars. Putting labels on stuff, all that kind of stuff, I think is interesting. And I think that, I know if I would watch it, I'm sure that there's other people out there that would be just as intrigued as I am to watch it. So we try to do it for that reason, so that you guys can kind of get more of a behind the scenes look. I mean, there's even potential to be in the Viper room and go through, fill in some orders and that kind of stuff. I mean, we haven't done that before. And honestly, that's not usually what I do. I'm not usually fulfilling orders. I'm usually doing all kinds of other stuff, but okay, so put a guide pin in this one. Cody Clark asks if there is a huge difference, gold, electrical. Honestly, I've never been able to tell a difference in any plated electrical. But technically, there is a difference. I just don't think it's a measurable difference. But, I mean, if I'm going to build a high-end car, I'm definitely going to use plated. But the way that I approach it and what I know is silver is the most conductive. Therefore, silver should be the best when it comes to conductivity. Gold would be the next one that we offer, and gold also has the best longevity and durability. So a thumbprint on gold, it's not going to oxidize or change color like the raw copper or the silver will. So, if this is a car that somebody's getting as like a weekend warrior type car, or something that they'll pull out only a couple times of the year, the silver probably it will oxidize over time, just like the raw copper will, and the gold won't do that. So that's typically where I will use the gold over the silver and the raw copper, but I can't say that they make a noticeable difference on the track. So I don't know that I think to me that the gains off track are larger than the on track gains. But like I said, when I do a high end car, custom cars or whatnot, I always use plated, whether it be gold or silver. And a lot of times the thing that determines for me what I'm using is really just managing our inventory. So if we have an excess of gold, then you'll see me use a lot of the gold. Right now I'm using silver because I'm bringing that inventory down at the same rate as the gold. So hopefully that's an understandable answer for you. See if there's any other things. Yeah, he says makes sense. So glad that worked for you. I mean, the other thing too is the looks, the silver and the gold. They just look super cool. I mean, you don't see people walking around with copper bracelets on. They either got gold or silver on. So I wish there was some kind of a black material that was conductive, or a black coating, because I think it would look really sweet to make a kind of a stealth look electrical system. Okay, so we got 4 down. Couple more to go. This is my least favorite part of doing these things. Nobody here likes pin and chassis, but it's definitely an essential part, of the process. Like I said, a lot of times because you don't like doing it, it's something that gets done at the end. And I'm telling you, you want to do it at the beginning to get it out of the way. Just in case you have a pin that goes in crooked, or you blow out the side, or just something that you don't want to happens. You just don't want that to be at the end, because after spending a couple of hours on a build, the last thing that you want to do, ruin the chassis on the very last step. And I've seen it before. I've seen people do that and they just end up running it and they regret it later. So Try not to do that. Do the hard stuff first, you know. But yeah, quick shout out too to or plug for our SCDRL race. So if, I know a lot of you guys still don't know what our drag racing league is, and I know a lot of people aren't into drag racing, but this is a really, really cool group that we have created. It's getting really big, really, really fast, and people are really enjoying racing other people's cars from all over the country. You know, we're looking forward to our first international cars to come in. And, you know, if there's people out there that want to get into slot cars but aren't sure how or where, or there's no track near you, I mean, I get it. The in-person experience, you can't beat that. But if you can't have that, but you still like something, I mean, this is a way that allows you to enter cars, and they can, you know, you can enter them to race against other cars from all over the place. The way we've set up the class structure is really, really simple. It allows for all different kinds of cars, so it's not about money, it's not about the best builder, it's not about any of that stuff. In the majority of the bulk of the classes, there are classes for that kind of racing, but the majority of our races are going to be just anything, run what you brung, or run, you know, we run what you sent to us, and it's a lot of fun. So if anybody wants more info on that, let me know. We can send out some links, but it is all on the Viper site under SCDRL, which is Slot Car Drag Racing League. So it's pretty sweet. I see Ken asked what kind of glasses I got. So these are Optivisors. I think these are 2.5 times magnifier. So they have a lot of different magnification strengths and the focal length. So I don't like to be right there. I like to be a little bit further out. So I think these are 2.5 times, but I'm not 100% sure. I wouldn't know without pulling off the LED light system on them, which doesn't really work very well right now anyways. Yeah, it looks like last pinhole, which I am actually glad because my hand is starting to cramp up. Used to do a lot of welding, TIG welding specifically, and I'm right-handed, so I would hold the torch with my right hand and hold my rod with my left hand, and like sometimes I don't think I ever had carpal tunnel, but maybe I did, maybe I still do, I don't know. But every once in a while, it gives me a reminder that my hand cramps up. It's also why I was a horrible student, wink, wink. Hated doing homework, hated writing stuff. I just like to make stuff. So, yeah, so got those guys going. I'm gonna get the hangers out, put my hangers in there, and I always like to count stuff out. I don't know why. It probably doesn't matter. I could just dump it out and dump it back in, but I like to count stuff out. Part of that too, in my head, it's just, I like seeing the pile disappear and not having anything left. It makes me feel like I completed that task. So, something that I do when I install the hangers and any electrical is you don't want to stretch or bend or tweak anything. You, at least with the Viper stuff, you want to keep it all as neutral as possible. So the hangers, they don't just drop in and fall in there. There is a little spot on the bottom that has to click into place. And usually I will push down at like a 45-degree angle to the hanger, and that will let it pop in there. But that stuff is super critical for car setup. So where the hanger hinge point is on the bottom of the car is very, very critical to the handling of the car. And I see guys all the time that they just slap those things in there, or they bend them, or they do some silly thing that they used to do to, you know, a 30-year-old car that was mass produced, that was a kid's toy. They are doing the same thing to, you know, a race part that they don't need to do that on. Like, the part is the absolute best that it can be right out of the package, and it requires zero extra bends or just things that are going to jack it up. So, okay, so we got these guys, look like they're good to go. I'm going to pull out some springs. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put some 10s in these. Let's see. Jeff Thompson, I don't see brass crown gears in your site. They are on there. If you search metal crown or metal gear in the search bar, it will pull up the link to that. There's a drop down for the listing, and there's like a whole bunch of them. They're all Wizard gears or Quicker Engineering. Those are the two that we sell. So they are on there. A lot of guys don't utilize our search feature. They look for stuff. They don't utilize that search function. The search function, it works amazing. But if the gear on there isn't called a brass gear in the title, then it won't pull it up. But if you search metal gear, which is what they are listed as, then you'll definitely find it that way. So I'd go that route. But these cars are getting 10s, and I'm going to run the standard shoe on these. The reason I'm running the standard shoe is because of the magnet strength of these cars. They are going to be set up a little bit higher than you normally would, or at least what I normally would, but that's just because they're going on a track that's kind of an unknown, and it's going to have a little bit bigger tire on it. So I'm going to check those real quick. They feel good. I'm just going to make a little note on the top of the chassis that these cars have 10s in them. So I just put on the nose of the chassis 1010, which that may or may not be hopper legal to write on a chassis with marker, but who knows? There might be a hopper expert in here that can tell us what they think. So we'll just keep working these two that we just put the electrical in. So we're going to do independent fronts on them. Actually, we'll do that on all of these cars. So I'm just pulling front axles out, get my retainers out. Okay, and spacers, and then to choose the wheel color. You know, a lot of times if the customer doesn't choose the wheel color, I usually will put natural on there just because it kind of goes with a lot of different bodies. But yeah, real quick, Wesley said, would SCDL consider a tin top class Jag Deere 1? Yeah, I mean, you could run anything in there. If you wanted to put a Hot Wheels body on a Jag chassis, I mean, you could certainly do that. And it'll definitely run in the top eliminator class. Okay, so on these front ends, I always start out by, on my setup block here, I put a retainer down, and then I put a rim over the retainer. And then I will press from the top side. I'm not hammering it, I'm just pressing it until it stops. And that's basically how I start every single one of these. I put the other side on the exact same way, but there's a little bit more articulation, because you're fighting the spacer flying off and you're also handling the whole rim setup. So it's a little bit harder, but I do cover that in, we have a video for the installing the brass front end setup on Mega G Plus, but that's pretty much what we're going for. Like I said, I wish that it would focus better on these live videos, but it's because it's the front cam and there's so many other things in the background that it's just trying to pick up. So unfortunately, it's not picking up that super well, but I could probably grab the camera and flip it around real quick to show you guys too. So yeah, let's do that real quick. Okay. Front ends are on. All nice and shiny. Consistent. I mean, if you look at where the pickup shoes are on the pickup shoe tabs right now, everything's neutral. None of that stuff's loaded, but it's an exact symmetrical copy of itself, which is exactly what you want. Drives me absolutely crazy when I see cars built by pro racers and the pickup shoes are like this or like that. It's like they're just leaving time on the table. I mean, that's literally, and they might say, oh, well, you know, I'm faster than you. I don't even care. Like, it's sloppy. So we're going to go ahead and I think we'll do a purple setup on one of these and probably do a blue setup. I actually really like using the black wheels, but a lot of times they kind of get lost because it's a dark color. And a lot of people are like, it just doesn't look as cool, and they feel like they're not getting the value out of the custom car. So kind of silly, but purple's always good, especially if it's combined with a custom arm. But we'll get these guys in here real quick. And I think the last two, I'll leave the front ends off of those two for now because we aren't sure I was building a couple of extra cars, so we'll see from there. But yeah, you don't want to beat any of this stuff on there. You don't want to pound any of it. You don't want to do any of that stuff. You want everything to be very, very nice and neutral. I actually had someone the other day message me that the retainers were not reusable and that they get worn out. And honestly, if you're installing them correctly, that is not the case. My suspicion is that they're using a rear wheel puller to pull the front wheels, and because the axle diameter is different, the big axle for the rear, the pin is actually opening up the retainer, and then once they get it off, it's not usable anymore. So that's my guess. Just because I've been doing this a long time, I have confidence in the parts that we make. And I mean, like I said, I literally do. I can't even imagine, or I don't even know the number of cars that I do every week with stuff, but very, very rare that we have problems like that with production parts. So, but I'm going to look over my papers real quick just to see what color, if anything, is needed. I don't think that there is, so we are gonna just do, I mean, I'm almost actually out of, I gotta restock in the Viper room down there for some other rims, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and do these last ones silver. Don't have an axle in here for the last car, so I guess that one we'll just leave as our final car. But it's not a big deal if you don't put the front end on. You could do that at the very end. I like doing it at this stage of the game, but I also too, if I run out of parts in my drawer here and I need to run back to the Viper room to grab parts, I usually won't do that for just one part. I'll wait till I'm a little bit deeper in the process and have more parts that are needed, but which is why I don't have pickup springs on and shoes on these. Once again, that's not the end of the world if it doesn't have those at this point, but I typically will build the cars with that stuff. Some of these cars could be Neo cars, so I probably would run different spring setup in them. I definitely wouldn't run a 10 thou spring. I'd either run an 11, which are pretty hard to find nowadays. It's a BSRT spring, old school. But we have helper springs that you can run with a traditional 8, 9, or 10 spring. And that's probably what I'll put in these other cars. But I want to get the car together so that I can use my spring gauge on them to see where they're at so that I can get that same combination. But just kind of a quick shout out to the running the helper spring. The benefit of that, even if you have the same tension as a single spring, when you run a helper spring, you almost double the surface area that the electricity can flow through. So what that does on a pickup spring is that allows the spring to run cooler, and then it also, it feeds the motor more power, or it has the ability to transfer more power if needed. So pretty cool. But yeah, so these guys, we'll swap the cam real quick. So these guys are all ready for the next step, which is going to be motor. This one doesn't have front end in it yet, like I said, but yeah. And I mean, this was a car we ran earlier, or sorry, that I was building earlier. So custom wheels, not sure what body I'm going to put on it yet, but pretty cool spec. And then this was a car that I was playing around with. So this is a really good combo for Spec Racer. So it's the new Spec Racer mags with the maxi tractions. This thing is wicked fast. So that car is really, really good. Runs 560s on the drag strip, which for a 6-ohm car is really, really fast with stock gearing or spec gearing. So super quick, but I think I'm going to probably wrap the video up right here. Perry asked if I could show the helper spring setup. So I don't have one to show you, but what I can explain to you is, and this is exaggerated, this diameter is our current spring. The helper spring is smaller and it fits inside of it. It's basically just a lighter spring that goes inside of it. So maybe it's an 7, 8, or a 9 helper that you would run with a traditional 8, 9, or a 10 spring, and the combination of those two, because the coil pack is different. Like when we say spring sizes, we're talking about the wire size. We're not actually talking about the strength of the spring. So because the springs are all made to the same spec with different wire sizes, they inevitably are stiffer or softer as you go up or down in wire. So when you put a smaller diameter spring that's made to a whole different spec in there, even if the gauge or the thousandths of an inch is the same, it can increase your overall spring tension because it's working with the larger spring. So hopefully that makes sense for you. It's honestly, it's not something that applies to it probably only applies to 5% or less, probably less than that. Probably 1% of all slot cars benefit from a helper spring. But we definitely could test that on the drag strip. That would be a great place to test it. to kind of show like, hey, these have the exact same spring pressure. One has this is what it ran with the helper, this is what it ran without it, and see what we get from there. But hopefully you guys enjoy the video. I might come on later and do more steps of these, but for now I'm probably just gonna go work on the end bells and pick some armatures for these. So got kind of a little stash of custom arms that, you know, will be used for these. So, but yeah, if you guys are interested, high-end custom cars, let me know. We build them all the time. I mean, this stack right here, this is custom cars that I got to build that aren't stuff that's on the website. So it's all stuff that's built directly to the consumer. But hopefully you guys have a good one. Have a great day. We'll see you.